Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene. Today's date, August 30, 2025. Time in Texas, about 2 p.m. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share. For hitting the like button, that helps my channel to grow. Some of the sources I'll use today: CRUX, New York Prepper, Hal Turner, KWE, Beston Taylor. Plus, some of the things we'll cover. Fall comes to the U.S. and Texas, and the U.S., America, and the U.S. military prep for war in the Caribbean. Up to 8 warships will be bearing down on Venezuela and Colombia. And President Trump, America, blessed by God, brings out new information via KWE regarding the prosperity of America, gold, and rare earth minerals. So let's get started. I'm going to begin in terms of space weather. We have Earth-facing sunspots turning to face the Earth. We have today, in the next 24 hours, 75% chance for M-class flares, 25% for X-class flares. And we have a new tropical disturbed area just coming off of Africa, hundreds if not thousands of miles from America. 0% chance of development in 48 hours. 30% in 7 days, but most probably this is going to be hitting colder temperatures in the ocean. So that's going on, and I'd like to say thank you to Jonelle Enterprises for extra support for my channel. So this coming week, we have major cold front coming down across the U.S., all the way down to about midway of the U.S. Nighttime temperatures for sure in the 30s. Colder temperatures, cooler temperatures in Texas. On the south coast, we will still have daytime temperatures in the high 80s, but nighttime temperatures in the 60s. And along with this, this cold front coming down, hitting warm air from the Gulf of America, we will have thunderstorms, but just regular thunderstorms we would normally see associated with the cold front. So that's going on. Our big topic today is apparently the U.S., America, President Trump, and the U.S. military prep for war. We now have 8 warships in the Caribbean, along with additional assets. We have thousands of U.S. military. We have Maduro with Venezuela now joining with the president of Colombia. They're going to come together to come against the U.S. military, which in my opinion is the greatest military in the history of the world. So now we had CRUX reporting overnight, last night, about 9:30 p.m. We had another U.S. warship, the USS Lake Erie, crossing the Panama Canal into the Caribbean. And I believe it was New York Prepper who put out information in the last 24 hours about an additional warship, the Newport, also being in this area. So we had one crossing last night. We had one a new addition, the Newport. We already had 3 pre-positioned. We had in the Gulf of America over the past 60 days, the U.S. military placed 4 warships. We understand now that these 4 warships in the Gulf of America are going to move closer to the Caribbean. And it appears that all-out war will be forthcoming in the next week, most likely few days. So overnight, the USS Lake Erie crossed the Panama Canal coming from San Diego. to join up with other ships here. So that's going on. And it's believed the U.S. President Trump has been provided options by the U.S. military for taking on the cartels, Venezuela, Colombia, the CCP. Let's not forget about the CCP, who are embedded in Venezuela. Now, Russia also has long-range missiles embedded in Venezuela. It is my perception that Russia will not join in this war effort with its missiles, our facilities, our troops. However, the CCP that's embedded in Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, and inside the U.S., led in by the Socialist Communist Dem political party during JB's term, are in America. It is my perception, it's highly likely, that when we have this war event in the Caribbean against Venezuela, Colombia, and the CCP in Mexico, the cartels in Mexico will also be joining in. I do not believe the Mexican military, unless the cartels control certain parts of the Mexican military, will join in. I believe maybe 50% of the Mexican military will not join with the cartels. Could be 50% of the Mexican military will join with the cartels against America. We'll have to see. I believe when this is all over with, that there will be a destruction of the military and the current government, Maduro, will be gone in Venezuela. The current military and government in Colombia will be gone. I believe in Mexico that the part of the Mexican military who does not join in against America will still be standing. And I believe that Sheinbaum, if she plays her cards well, will also be left standing. But we need to be most alert to situations going on in the U.S., because I believe that when this starts up in the Caribbean, we will see war-like events inside the U.S., most likely, that's my cat, most likely against major cities. And I believe that's also part of the reason President Trump has been distributing National Guard Plus to various cities. It's preparation for martial law, and we would come under martial law in the event of this war situation. So it's good to prep now with your preps, food and water and self-defense items, cash. Absolutely. I believe this could kick off as early as next week. So keep your powder dry, baby. That's going on. And we have this. President Trump had already asked the U.S. military for his options against Venezuela, and now it's also going to be against Colombia. And the U.S. military, I know, is fully aware of the CCP embedded in South America, Mexico, and inside the U.S. We have Axios putting forth, we could see a scenario in Venezuela taking out Maduro, similar to Noriega, Part 2. Noriega was the leader of the Panama, actually a drug cartel leader. He was taken out by the U.S. military, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago. We have, in addition to our 8 warships, we have 4,500 sailors, 2,200 Marines. We have the Coast Guard and law enforcement. The Coast Guard and law enforcement would be needed. They're situated on the ships in the Caribbean. They would be needed to make a certain arrest, legal arrest of the cartel members. We have several P-8 Poseidon surveillance planes. We have one nuclear sub, the USS Virginia. Now, Maduro says he's raised militias of 4.5 million. Colombia, along the border of Colombia and Venezuela today, placed 25,000 of its Colombia military in the Carabamba area between Venezuela and Colombia, which is a well-known drug trafficking corridor that's protected by the governments of Venezuela and Colombia. So that's going on. And now we have this from New York Prepper. New York Prepper reported several days ago about another ship, the USS Newport, going to this area. So initially we had 3 ships here. We have the Newport going. We had the Lake Erie going last night. We had 4 already pre-positioned in the Gulf of America, so we have a total of 8 warships now in the Caribbean. So that's going on. And we have this. Hundreds of missiles are available. So to hit Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, the cartels, that's going on. And Maduro also Colombia put 25,000 of their military along this border. Venezuela put 15,000 along this border. Apparently, they're protecting the cartels. So that would be a total of about 40,000 Venezuela, Colombia troops now along the border between Venezuela and Colombia. So that's going on. And we have this from Hal Turner. So, as I said, President Trump has been placing National Guard across the U.S. My perception is prepping for martial law, and that we would go into martial law, and that he's now surging federal ICE agents to the city of Chicago, and we have a communist, socialist, Dem mayor of Chicago, Johnson, who is now bringing in paid anti-ICE protesters to respond with force against the federal ICE agents. I'm not sure, what does he mean by force? Does he mean that he's facilitating armed anti-ICE, George Soros-funded protesters to come into Chicago to respond with armed force against the U.S. federal government ICE agents? That would be a concrete act of insurrection by a city mayor, and in a time of war would also carry treason charges with it. So this is the response we see from the communist, socialist, Dem representatives. Un-American. And now we have this. So Joe Rogan recently interviewed Kash Patel, President Trump's director of the FBI, talking about the FBI coming out with more information about Fauci. That would be concurrent with more information coming out from President Trump's Secretary of Health and Human Services, RFK Jr., about Fauci, the COVID, and so on. So that's coming out. But Kash Patel, in this interview with Joe Rogan, also said the FBI will be moving against certain members of JB's cabinet, Obama's cabinet, like Comey, and others, and they have located more files about Fauci, the COVID, Epstein, and so on. And it's being put forth also that since President Trump has been inaugurated, he has facilitated the rescue of 50 American citizens from various foreign nations, who the socialist communist Dems had just hung out to dry. And it's believed that these actions by President Trump and the FBI against these Dems will also come against the CCP, who we know is embedded in the cartels, and stem their flow of fentanyl from South America to poison American citizens. And we have this: President Trump is now freeing up the prosperity that God so graciously has given America by freeing up the resources in 250 million acres inside the U.S., mostly located in U.S. western states that had been prohibited from being mined, and the resources obtained for the American people by the socialist, communist, Dem parties, environmental laws, and so on. And this includes gold, silver, copper, lithium, uranium, and rare earth minerals. Way to go, President Trump. I believe America has been blessed by God to be the strongest nation on earth and to have all of the resources we need right here in America. So it's good to keep your powder dry, baby, and prep, and to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.